Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we're going to fetch all the historical data from the stock API that we're going to need to pass to our prediction prompt so we can allow the GPT model to generate a prediction for us. So let's head back to VS Code in here. And right now we are at the handle submit where we console logging the array of symbols where we're storing all the symbols that we want to get the prediction from. So instead of calling console.log here, we want to create a new folder inside of app, right click new folder, actions. Inside of actions, let's right click new file, and we're going to create the get prediction.ts. And here we're going to export a async function from here. And this one is going to be called prediction. We don't need a capital P here, it's not a component. Parentheses, and let's keep it here. So we are exporting this prediction function or get prediction. Let's call it get prediction, just like we call the file. Keep it consistent. Cool. So in here, we want to receive the array of symbols. So symbols is going to come in here. It's going to be a string array. And here we're going to just console log the symbols for now. Cool. So let's import this get prediction function into here. So let's go and say import get prediction. And instead of console logging it, we want to call this one here. Get prediction. We pass the symbols. Let's save that. Go in here. Let's mark this as use server because these are our server actions that we're defining in this file. The get prediction. So now let's go and open the terminal. And if we put a new stock in here and we call get prediction, we should see the console log now on the backend here, and not in the console on the browser, which is where we will see the console log from the front end. So cool. So we're receiving the array of symbols in the backend. Now the first thing we're going to do here is not get the prediction. We're going to need to fetch the historical data for the stock symbols that we want to get the prediction from. So we're going to create a new file here, and we're going to create a file called stocks actions.ts. And in this one, we want to create a function called export. Now let's say export async function fetch stock singular in here. We're going to take in the stock symbols. We're going to say symbols, and we want to say that this is going to be a string. Let's console log symbol in here. Symbol is clear, but the bar is never read. Singular symbol. Here we go. So let's keep that definition there, and let's go and also create another function. Let's copy this one down, and we're gonna call this one fetch stocks data. Let's call this data here. Fetch stock is singular, fetch stocks data is for all of them. Let's see how we're gonna break it down. So what we can do is that, yeah, we're just gonna break it down into, let's say, we're gonna get a symbol here, and then here we're gonna try to call all of them at the same time. Yeah, so yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Let's keep this singular, because here we're gonna have a map. We're gonna map over the symbols, and then we're going to fetch all the symbols in all the data for each one of these here. Cool. So here we're gonna take in symbols, and it's gonna be a string array. Yeah, that's how I'm trying to set it up in here. Cool. So here we're gonna receive the array of symbols. So we're gonna call for each symbol. We're gonna pass this fetch stock where we're going to be making the fetch request or fetching the data inside of a map function we're gonna do in a promise.all. Cool. So let's skip it here. And now let's work on this fetching the stock here. So let's do a try catch. And here is where we're going to set everything up. But before we can put any code in here, we need to set up our API key, and we're going to have to sign up to an API service here. So let's head over to polygon.io/pricing. And in here, you're going to see that we have a basic plan, or that they have a basic plan. And you can click here and sign up. And you can, it's free, so you can sign up for free. And you're going to get 5 API calls per minute. End of day data, 2 years of historical data, which is the data we're going to pass to the prompt, so the AI model has some context to make the prediction, and we can use aggregates, which is what we're going to use. So it's pretty good. With 2 years, I think that's fine. They have other plans, but we are good with the basic here. So go ahead and sign up, and we're going to you're supposed to go to the dashboard and get your API key. When you get to the dashboard, they will provide the API key at the bottom. This is documentation here as well. All right, once you go to your dashboard, you're going to see your API key. And also you're going to see different libraries that we can use to talk to the API. So we're going to right click and open the JavaScript one here. And we're going to scroll down and copy the npm install command. So we can come back into here and we can stop our server, paste the npm command, hit enter. Oh, backticks are needed there. Hit enter there. And it's going to go ahead and install everything for us. And then we're going to run the server again. Cool. All right, so now we're gonna go back to the application and we're going to start working in here. So let's create a .env file because we need to set up. So in the tab level here, new file .env, and we're going to call this polygon underscore API underscore key equals, and you need to paste your API key right here, right next to that equal signs there. I'm gonna pause here. I'm gonna put my API key and we're going to continue. Cool, my API key is set up. So back to the stock actions file here. We are going to import the it's called res client, where is it? Rest client. Let's type this again. Rest client. Maybe they might did it install properly? It looks like it did. Okay. Let's head back to the documentation here. This is the import we need to have. Let's see if it's going to give me an error. Yes, it's giving me an error. Oh no, it's fine. It's fine whenever used. Let's see, now let's copy this second command here, which is setting up the client. So we can just put it on top here. And it's saying find module polygon is corresponding, cannot find it. Okay, so my npm didn't work properly. So let me try to run that again. Control C. Okay, so I run the command again without the backticks. And now I can see the dependency listed here. Polygon.io client. So now we should be okay. So if you have the same problem, just remove the backticks. Close that up. This is how I run the command, and let's run the server one more time. So now we should be able to go back to the stocks here, and now it's all fixed. Cool. So we have the client here, which we're passing the process.env.poly API key. Oh, I call it polygon, so let's put it polygon here to make sure. So this needs to match your environment variable name that we assign. So now it should be the same. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go inside of the function here. And let's see, now we can use this SDK, this package here to make the request. So inside of the try, we can say const data. And remember, in the single here, we're going to grab each symbol. So we're just fetching one at a time. So data equals await res dot stocks dot aggregates, and then here we need to pass the symbol that we want to fetch the data from. We need to keep here is the multiplier, default is 1, we can keep it at 1. Then we want to get the timestamp is a day. And then here we need to pass the from value, which is a string, and the to value from in a string as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab here inside of the lib. I'm going to right click, create a new file. Let's say call it this date helpers.ts. And I'm going to bring in just to, let's say a couple of helper functions, which we can just bring in here. And I'm going to tell you pretty much what I did and what you can do as well. So this date helpers are just going to be functions that are going to, first we're going to format the date to how we're supposed to be sending it. So we're going to create a brand new date. Then we're going to format the date and that we can get the year, the month, and the date. And then we have a function called get 2 years back from yesterday. So this is going to use the format date, which is going to pass a new date. It's going to go in here, format it the right way. And then it's going to calculate the yesterday, because we're going to always get the previous date, so of the historical data, so always from yesterday. So we're going to calculate yesterday by taking 1 off from the current date. And then we're going to calculate 2 years back by taking 2 years off the date, the year. So we're gonna call the 2 years from back from yesterday. So we're gonna start with 2 years back. It's gonna be a new date that's gonna be started from yesterday. Then we're gonna set the full year to yesterday that get full year, and then we're gonna take 2 years off from the year there. And then we're going to return this 2 years in ISO string, so we can calculate this in a time zone for whenever we call in for the user, whenever they using this application from. And we just split it from the T for the time, and we just grabbing the date without the time. So you have a get 2 years back from yesterday. Yesterday day string, so you can always get yesterday just by calling this function. And then you got 2 months back from yesterday. So to this API, the free tier, you can call the get 2 years back. So if we go back here, we need to start with the from date where we want to start when we want to start from. So let's import here let's call the yesterday date string, and also let's go with the months, get months back from yesterday function. But you could also use the 2 years back to get the full 2 years. But I also created the get months back from yesterday, and we can pass in the number of months we want to get back. So if we just want to get smaller data while we testing everything, because remember the model can only take a certain amount of text that you can pass in. We can send the 2 years, but we want to go with something smaller first, so we can actually see the data and kind of like work with the data first. So we're going to be using the get months back from yesterday, and later on we can switch to the get 2 years back. So let's save that, close this up, and let's go right under this here. Let's put some space here, and we're going to say const yesterday equals yesterday day string, so we can get the formatted string from yesterday's dates. We can console log in just so we can see the response, and this is in here. Let's also call here const, let's do months back, and call the get months back from yesterday, and let's pass in a 1 just so we can get a month back amount of data from the stock here. So here we're going to pass in the months back and all the way up to yesterday. Cool. So now we're going to make that request for each symbol, and we want to get the day by day from yesterday all the way back from 2 months. So now let's put a console log right under this, and we can say console log quote stocks data, and let's put the data variable here. Cool. So let's say after that we can have a if statement here, and we can say if data that status, there's a status variable value that we can check in here to see if everything went okay. So we can do status if status is not equals to okay or the data that result count is equals to 0, we want to return, and here we're going to return a promise dot rejection or reject, and we're going to say parentheses data not available for stock, and then we're going to pass in the data dot ticker, which is the stock symbol that we're trying to fetch the data from. So if we don't get an OK, or if the result counts as 0, so that means we didn't get any data and the result counts, we're going to return a rejection in the promise. And then we're going to, if we pass that check, we're just going to return the data here. If we get an error, we can just console.log error or error in here. Or we can say a little bit more about this as error fetching data for symbol, and then we can put the error here, comma error, so we can see that we got an error. Oops. There we go. Let me hide the terminal. So now this is going to fetch the data. We're getting a month's worth of data, but again, you'll also have the helper function to get the whole 2 years back. So this is always going to calculate the yesterday's date and the all the way back from the month that you pass in here, or the 2 years if you use the other function. So cool, and you should be able to find that in the description. Let's go and say, okay, cool. So this is what this function is going to do. So now this function is going to call that function in a promise that all settle. So let's go in here and say, let's have a try catch here. And in here, we're going to say, let's do const. And what we're going to do, we're going to say results equals await promise dot all settle. So we're going to wait for all of them. This is going to return an array of promises that they're either going to be fulfilled or rejected if we get a status that is not okay, or a data that result counts that is 0. And let me show you in the documentation. Let me scroll down here. So we can scroll down. This is the one we use in aggregates. And here we can see we have the ticker, multiplier, timestamp, the date from, we got the same format, the 2, and then the sort if you wanted to as well. So let's keep it here. And now let's continue inside of this function here. So in the all settle here, what we're going to do, we're going to receive the symbols here. We're going to say symbols dot map, and map, we're going to pass in our fetch stock function that we define up here. So we can close this up really quick, and now we can see it better. Inside here, we're going to call this function on each one of the symbols, and we're going to wait for all the promises to complete, and then we should get an array with the promise results, and we can continue from there. So we wait for all of this to be done. Then we continue here, and we want to remember here we're going to get a we're gonna get an array of promises. And from here, we're gonna go and map over this data to transform the objects. So we're gonna say return results that map, and here we're gonna grab each promise result. So we're gonna say promise result, and then we're gonna go and say if promise result that status is equals to fulfill, we're gonna go and let's say we want to go and return a promise result dot value. So we're going to return the value from the promise if the promise was fulfilled. And then here we're going to do an else. If else we want to, let's console log the error and let's say promise rejected, and then let's put the space and then say promise result dot reason, and then if in here after console login we could say const error equals an object that is going to have a error property, and we're going to pass the promise result dot reason here, so we can return this error here. Then return error. Cool. So we're calling the fetch stock for each one of the symbols. We're going to wait for all of the promises to return. We're going to map over the results that we got from the promises. We're going to check if it was fulfilled. We want to return the value that we got back. If it was not fulfilled, we want to return an error object in here. Let's import up here. Let's do import curly brackets. Let's do I A G G. I think this type here, which we need from the Polygon package, and let's extend this type up in here. Let's just do it down here. Let's just do interface, and let's call this one stock data results, and this one is going to extend the AIGGS type, and we're just going to extend it to contain a optional error, which is going to be an object that is going to have the error, and is going to be a string. Also is going to have a status that is also going to be a string. And then this type, we're going to use it to mark this here as that type. And here we're going to do colon stock data results. Now it's type safe, and we added the error to that type, so we can put our error in there. All right, so I think that is what we need at the moment. So for fetching all the data, So we should be able to fetch the data now from this here. Let's just do inside of the catch here. Let's do a console log or console.error that is going to say unexpected error in fetch stock data, and then pass in the error here. And then we're going to throw an error, new error. And if we throw an error here, is because fail to fetch stocks data. So we don't continue if something goes wrong inside of this function. Let's put the doc string, let's do /*** and go in here and say fetches or fetch the data from all symbols or the stock data. And then for this one, do the same, /***, and this one is going to fetch the stock data for a single stock symbol. All right, so we are done with these two functions. So now back into the prediction here, we could go in here and now we could call, instead of calling the console log symbol, we're going to delete that. We're going to say const stocks data results equals, and we're going to call the get not this one. We're gonna call stocks data result. Let's do await fetch stocks data in here, and let's pass in the symbols, and let's console log the stocks data result or results, because we're gonna have multiple results in there. All right, so again, we're gonna go back to the handle submit. Handle submit is gonna call the get prediction now. Get prediction, the first thing it's gonna do is gonna go ahead and fetch all the data from the symbols that we added. It's gonna go in here and fetch all of them. And then it's going to return the results and console login. So let's try to see this in here. Let's open the terminal here. And let's go ahead and type AAPL. I got 2 in there. Let's refresh it. You can add a clear button here if you want to clear that up. But right now, I don't really need that. So I'm going to add it. And then click here, get prediction. And look at that. We have our data. There we go. We got the stocks data. We got the ticker, query count, result count, adjusted, and we got a results array with the historical data of Apple. And now we are able to, oh, this is part of the status. Look at the status. Okay, request ID and count 21. So now with this data, we need to now pass it to our prompt so we can send the request to the OpenAI GPT model. we're here, and now we should be able to work on the rest of the get prediction function and build a prompt with this data. So that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one so we can finish up in the get prediction function. See you there.